attempt now to, I have a phone call set up at Paramount on Wednesday to begin the possibility of making Trekkies 3, which will be my, final third. Oh, you guys, thank you so much. Listen, Star Trek and the fans have the most unique relationship in all of television history. And it's the granddaddy of them all. I mean, Star Trek started this whole Comic-Con, fandom, fan conventions. What we see now, what I've seen change in 27 years that I've been doing this, it's huge. So I really want to try to do that. But what I was thinking about was, I have footage of interviews with DeForest Kelley, Leonard, Jimmy Doohan, that I didn't use in Trekkies. I just have it in my vault. I couldn't fit everything in. So what I'd like to do now is make, a new version. I'd like to, I'd like to make the copy, because Trekkies, if you look at Trekkies, we were scraping by on whatever film we could get. I'd like to transfer it to a higher resolution and maybe put some extras now on some of those interviews that I have in the vault. And those are going to be some of my carrots I'm going to dangle for Paramount. Let's see if I get a bite.
That would be awesome.
I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
Yes.
You'll know. Yes? Any more? Oh, good. Yes.
Where would you go during the zombie apocalypse?
Wow. Well, I'd probably like to get on the Enterprise. Warp speed. I'd be out of here. Boy, I don't know. God only hopes that doesn't happen. Not pretty. Yes.
You had a part in a terrific movie called Deep Impact, which was a really very philosophical movie in the disaster situation. That came out at the same time as Armageddon. So, do you think Deep Impact would have been a bigger movie if it had come out around the same time? And how does the studio put out two asteroid movies?
Good question. It's kind of the idiocy of Hollywood at times. I remember being on the set of Deep Impact and us getting word that Michael Bay was going to make Armageddon, and we were going, really? Well, how do they both okay this at the same time? And it was totally out of our control, but two very different movies, quite different. That was just one of the better experiences I've had working. I mean, it was incredible. First of all, I got to meet one of my idols, why I became an actress, was Vanessa Redgrave, and she was extraordinary and everything I imagined and more that she would be. Very down to earth, very real, and that scene that we shot, in which I give the baby to my daughter to take off and survive, was absolutely one of the most incredible film scenes I have ever participated in. That was 2,000 cars were on the streets on that highway in Manassas, Virginia, in the summer. And 3,000 extras. That was no CGI. That was 3,000 cars. And the way they were communicating was the assistant directors, you would turn to an AM frequency on your car radio. And that's how they communicated. And when I was brought to the set, I was staying in DC across the bridge and brought to the set that morning. in the van. I'll never forget, I went, oh my God. It was a sea of cars. And they just put out a notice, if anyone wants to be in a movie, you could use your car. And it was incredible, but 7 people ended up going to the hospital for heat stroke and dehydration. I mean, I'd like to see the count of water bottles that went through that day, those 2 days of filming. It was extraordinary. Yes?
Were you a Star Trek fan before TNG?
I was a Star Trek fan. My experience with the original was, I didn't watch it, when it first came on in the '60s. I was a little too young to get into it. But then when it went into first run syndication, it played in LA every night at 5, and I was about 18, and I was renting while going to school a little guest house on an organic farm. And this man, Chico, from Chico, and his wife. And Chico was like an 85-year-old Italian immigrant. So that was our thing. Every night at 5, Chico, 85, me, 18, we would watch Star Trek together. And we saw every episode. And that was like our little thing to do. And I always had this like little glint in my eye, this twinkle, thinking, I always thought about Chico and how funny this would have been for him to see me, on the next gen. But yeah, I still love the classic Trek. There's nothing like it. I mean, it just gets, better and better to watch. Yes?
What's it like knowing that Star Trek is bringing so much of our current technology, cell phones and tablets?
It's extraordinary. But, he was asking about, what's it like, or what do I feel about the modern technology, all the design, so modeled from Star Trek. It makes sense because, we've all grown up, all the designers, all the tech people, have grown up watching Star Trek. So that's what's in their imagination. And it's like, can we make this real? So it makes perfect sense to me.
In the next generation, they're always walking around, and it's probably just plastic then, the little tablet computers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the iPads, right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've done so much in TV and films. Did the stage or plays ever interest you?
Oh, I love theater. Yeah, I mean, that's where I first began. And, I always try to continue to go back to plays. The last play I did, I was telling my friend Carol about it, that Gates McFadden directed me in, called House of Gold, and it was just a riveting piece on a look at the JonBenet Ramsey abduction and murder, and what stirs up in us as a culture and a society, and how we push our kids and how they grow up too fast, and what do we want from them, and what do we expect them to do for us. And it was just extraordinary. I can't imagine being an actor and not do theater, because that's where you really live and breathe as an actor. Film is really a director's medium, and television tends to be a writer's. Right now, television, I mean, some of the best writing is being done, cable TV but to be able to enter a theater and have a live audience that you're affecting, you can feel it, I mean, there's an energy transference when you're on stage. I mean, I can tell when I've got you, in the grip of my palm, There was one of my favorite stories was always something that the great actor Richard Burton commented on. He was doing Camelot on Broadway, and there was a moment in one of the acts. It was a speech that he had, or it might have been a song that he delivered, and he was starring with Julie Andrews in that production, and he would walk in and tell Julie, "I think I'll make them cry tonight." And she went, "Okay." He would do the speech or the song, and the audience would be weeping. The next night, he said, "I think I'll make them laugh tonight." And he would deliver the same piece, and they would be into laughing, falling out of their seats. She said he could control an audience like she had never seen somebody be able to do, just by delivering. And that's why actors, you need to have the theater to understand that. Yeah. Yes?
Speaking of stage, is there a role that you, like, your dream role to be on a stage production? And as far as musicals, would you be interested in doing anything musical?
I'm hearing Chris mumble here. There's a lot of great theater. I mean, there's not like that, like men often speak of, Lear. You start out playing Romeo, and then you play Hamlet, and then you play Lear. You had these 3 phases of stuff. There's just a lot of interesting new playwrights too, working, writing stuff in New York, London. I think music is something I've just always been dabbling in, and I sang in a little group called The Way Home when I was 14. It's like a sort of Christian coffee house group with Rita Wilson, actually. She and I were in the same group, and she's married to Tom Hanks, and she's actually performing in LA a night of music. So she's still singing, and I've always kind of, I studied classical flute and classical guitar, and I've twice now tried to study piano and abandoned it, but I still have my piano. It's in my little office, and one day I'm going to, before I die, I'm going to play some Chopin. That's my goal. But I'd like to do some musical stuff, definitely. Yes?
Back to The Walking Dead. After you got to the set of Terminus and learned more about your role in The Walking Dead, what did you do to prepare for it? Did you create a backstory, or were you given a backstory?
I wasn't given much, so it was really, as a matter of fact, when you first see me in The Walking Dead, it's the end of season 4, and it ends very abruptly. So there's a big gap of time before we came back to it, because the season ends and take a break. I wasn't even told that I was Gareth's mother, but
Spoilers.
Oh, you guys.
There's more spoilers than that out there.
That's true.
Terminus.
That's true. So I said to the actor that plays Andrew, that plays Gareth, I said, I really think that I'm your mother. And he goes, yeah, okay. I mean, but we were just making this stuff up. You have to. Once you understand, I mean, it really, the intriguing thing to me about the stuff in The Walking Dead, again, are these moral issues, these moral dilemmas, like, what would you do? And you think you wouldn't, But what I've learned, you know, I don't know what people will and won't do. You know, I'm always surprised. Just when you think, oh, you know, I mean, even with raising my own kid, you know, before you have a kid, you go, I'm never going to do, they are never going to do that. They're never going to watch TV after this hour. They're never going to eat sugar all day long. They're never going to, and you go, boy, all those rules go right out the window as soon as you have a kid. And you just hope to do the best thing and but these absolutes in life just, until you walk in someone's shoes, I don't know.
I believe we have time for one more question.
Oh, great. Oh, it's too fast. I think we need to stay here longer.
Yeah.
Right?
Who was your childhood hero?
Wow. A good one to... Wow. Well, I think I'd really... My mother and grandmother were really heroic to me. My grandmother was a young girl with an 8th grade education living in a tiny little farm in Hillsborough, Kentucky. And her husband was killed in a car accident on the way home. And she had a 16-month-old child and a 6-week-old baby. And the lawyer in the town came and swindled her from her property, took her deed for her land. And she was able to take those 2 children with her mother and come to Dayton, Ohio, looking for work to feed her children. And that kind of stuff, to me, is heroic and real. And, in the face of that, she held her head up high, and she worked in a downtown office building in Dayton, Ohio, cleaning the offices until she retired at 70. And they loved her. They didn't want to see her go. And I think that's why, to make it circular here, so we go back to Tasha Yar. And I respond to that, you see. There's something I identify with that. Even though my childhood was not my grandmother's, but it presented some challenges. My mother raised me as a single mom, even though my grandfather was from this illustrious, famous family, had absolutely nothing to do with me. And we had to overcome some serious obstacles. And that's what gives you character, So thank you for that question. I would have to say my own grandmother and mother. No one more heroic than them.
That was great.
You took me on this whole emotional ride.
You've woken him back up.
I know we could. I'm sorry. Just come to my table.
Yeah.
We'll talk some more. And
What time will you meet at your table?
I think now.
Now? We're going there now?
I'm there now.
There now.
I'm gonna beam in.
12:45 photo shoot.
Exactly. You guys are great. I really enjoy it. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're warm, and I really enjoyed this Q&A. They're not all that way. It's that Arizona heat, man.
you guys.